It's so nice, I have to name it twice. I call it reggae sauce. So nice with your fried chicken, make burgers finger licking, and your barbecue and your drumsticks. Just put some reggae sauce on your dish. Yeah, yes, great, fantastic, yeah.
Jamaica are countries of many people. So some of the challenges that we face here in the UK, I'm not accustomed to. I speak like you, speak like me, you name the nationality.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No. Sometimes.
Yes.
You may have seen him.
We sound kind of random.
He's an aka Dragon Slayer, soft man, entrepreneur, and chef. And as you've heard, his vocal cords are very intact. And he shot to fame on BBC The Dragon's Den in 2007. Levi has been a pioneer of Caribbean food, and as a result of his continued work around Caribbean food, it has its place in the hearts of the great British public. So it seems it's completely encouraging, I imagine, just to come around the public. And the reggae sauces we've heard, Levi something just now. So he charmed Dragon Den, Peter Jones, and Richard Farley into investing in spicy homemade sauce, and that the secret was handed down to him from his grandmother. And my condolences for your loss that you have encountered recently.
Thank you.
Levi, is real, and if I may reflect, it's World Mental Health Day yesterday, so don't suffer in silence. Do ask for help.
Absolutely.
Find somebody to talk to. That's very important to the management. We have a segment where we say World Mental Health Day, but it's important that we all look after ourselves. And then as a result of that, it was a speedy launch to Sainsbury's just a few weeks later, resulting in the fourth time off the shelf, and even outselling Heinz tomato sauce. Now, who talks that? Heinz tomato sauce, right? So Levi's managed to find time to write several cookbooks, and alongside the previous Kenji's business manual, you can get it if you really want. I don't know if you are familiar with that song. You just get it to say it for us. He's a great advocate for small to medium-sized business, and is often found in mentoring young entrepreneurs. He makes time to do charitable work all over the country, attending schools, colleges, and universities. And it's a befitting tribute to the Royal Agricultural University as awarded Levi an honorary fellowship. He's attended Prisoners Day motivational talks where he speaks from the heart about his own experience and with a true insight as to how one can turn a negative into a positive. So it's a man that sees his glass half full rather than half empty. He's got a licensed brand which is part of some of the best deals of the industry, and as a result of a wide range of products and reggae sauces, so no pressure to sample one if you have it.
Yeah, could I have one of these with some water?
Sure.
Just up
It's
front.
cold?
Yeah, just cold, just to wash some stuff in.
Without further ado, over to Sandra, and I hope you will enjoy the cooking experience.
Thank you very much, Parcel. Thank you. But I'm just going to
Thank you.
I'm just going
Cheers.
to ask Levi to take us through the dish, and we're just going to be informal. Any questions, just raise your hands, and we'll get to you. So I'm just going to start with ask what is Levi doing today? So Levi, do you want to take us what you're going to cook for us today?
Yeah, well, as it's Black history, and I know the Caribbean is wide. So when we do talk about Black history, we have to be very careful that we don't pigeonhole it into a few of the islands only. And normally it's that 5 or 6 islands that we hear about in the cricket team. Us here in the UK, when we think of the Caribbean, we think of Barbados, Antigua, Jamaica, and a few of the others.
Yeah.
But of course, there's thousands of islands in the Caribbean, literally thousands. And they all express their history and their food and their served in different ways. So I think in these important times of Black history, we have to be mindful that it's not just about Jamaican food.
Yeah.
even though if you ask me, I would say it's perhaps the greatest food of all the Caribbean. But I would say that anyway. But I have traveled the Caribbean and I know how, you know, the food is fantastic right across from Creole food. You know, as I went there a few years ago to do I played a small part in Death in Paradise. I don't know if you all saw it, but I was the death at the beginning and it was so quick that you probably missed it. But I went to Guadeloupe to see what Black history was about there and to see what the food was about there, and was absolutely blown away to see how diverse it was from Jamaica. But today I'm going to be doing a classic Jamaica dish, which is one, it's actually scary to do it because it's so classic that Jamaicans just don't like when you tamper with it at all. And whenever time you do a demo of this particular dish, you have to be very careful that you say, even if the things them that you don't doing, you have to talk about it so that people don't go away right up and say that you never do this and you never do that. And that's not how my grandmother would have do it and things. So I'm going to be doing the classic rice and peas. But I won't be able to do it in the classical way here because it takes about 3 hours to do rice and peas in this rich way. But I'm going to be showing you how to do it in a quick way, because we're going to do it in real time today. And then also talk about, if you want to go home, how you can do it in this real way, where if you have the time to cook it and you've got one of these and you know how to break into it, and then you're going to know how to take out the flesh on the inside as well too. Then you can perhaps do a rice and peas in its real way. But if you haven't got that and you want to save time, of course you can use some tin milk like I'm going to be used now. But don't tell anybody that we use the tin milk and the tin peas today. And of course also the red peas as well, you have to use the original real red peas. But today we're going to be using one in the tin to get away from it. Which takes me into about the diaspora, because I suppose when those first Windrush people from the Caribbean came over, they were the key ones that was coming with our history, but they couldn't take everything with them. So you find that us here in the diaspora and abroad outside of the Caribbean, we've had to do what we call dub up things, like DUB, meaning change things a little bit to suit us here that was away from the Caribbean and now in this new world like my parents was, and realizing that it's not every Sunday she could crack a coconut, then it'll be easier to walk down the street and to be able to get some doing a different way.
So I guess it goes back to that's how we do it.
That's how we do it, that's how we do it. Because I think the diaspora is important that we've had to change a little bit as we go along, just to be where we are today. And as you can see, I've got on my Marcus Garvey t-shirt here. It's Black History Month as well, and I'll talk a little bit about him. But to finish off, I'm going to be doing the rice and peas, and then I'm going to be doing a Caribbean fish parcel, because that's classic street food in Jamaica particularly, that whenever you go, you see people have them jerk pan, and they will have these jerk fish, what they call roast fish, in the parcel, and then you get that and mix that with the rice and peas, and it becomes really amazing.
Fantastic. So just take us through what we're doing
Yes.
at the start for this.
Okay, well what we're going to do now is to start with the rice and peas first, just to get that on, so that goes on. So what I've got over there, I've got a pot on, and inside I've poured 2 tins of this red kidney beans. And you can get it, and the key thing is to try to keep it authentic, because one thing that you will miss when you use the tin is when you cook the real peas, you get the water becomes really red. And it's another name for rice and peas, where Rastas call it red rice. And it's because it's the redness that you get from the red peas when you cook it in its real term. But when you use the peas, you do get a bit of redness on the inside, but not enough to create that real redness. So that's one thing that you lose a little bit of when you cook it with the tin peas. Just a little bit of that redness that you will see when we cook it. But I've used 2 tins of these, and I've cooked it a little bit. But for the real peas, you're going to have to cook that for about 1.5 hours. To get it down to become really soft, because it really is difficult to cook. But with this little baby here, you don't have to cook this at all. You just put it in the water and it's ready. So I put some in there, and with that I'm going to be mixing some coconut milk, because in the original recipe as well, you have to boil the peas in the milk. So, and it has to be coconut. You cannot in no way speak to a Jamaican or Caribbean person and tell them that you've not used this. But as I said, we in diaspora here, we can do it because we are allowed to do that. So inside now, I'm going to add the milk, which I've got here. And I'm just going to add some milk inside. If you can lift up that top there.
Yes.
No, you can't. Not if you're doing rice and peas. As I said, there's strict rules, because we all know about this appropriation that was talked about a lot lately, where they're saying that people are appropriating Caribbean food and it's not the real thing. So even though you can do that yourself if you choose to, but don't say I tell you to do that, to use any other peas. If maybe you can call it something else if you're not using red peas, like rice with peas. But the minute you say rice and peas, and it's from Caribbean, they're going to be expecting this red kidney beans.
Yes.
So
You talk a lot about your grandmother, lots of inspiration.
yes.
And I'm going to beat Master on this.
Little man.
I'm from Clarendon. My family's
So am I. So am I.
BHM.
So am I. We come from the same community family. I was born in Maypen as well. Absolutely.
Throw the big straw tie, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, okay, Master. We're going to debate here.
So all right, so let me just finish up the rice and peas while you go and cook for a minute here. So inside the rice and peas now, so you've got the peas and you've got the milk cooking away inside. As I said, if it's the real peas, it will be cooking down into the milk, and that's what we call rundown. So rundown is when it cooks right down, and then on top of it now it creates a kind of bit of an oil on top. That is the rundown. And that's another recipe in Caribbean, that they would scoop off the oil off the top of that and actually make something else with that. But you would cook it right down till it comes down to it. And inside that now I'm going to add 2 cloves of garlic. If you really like the taste of garlic in your rice and peas, not a lot of Caribbean people really like it too garlicky, then you could crush the garlic so it has a real flavor in there. So I'm going to just crush 1 and then put 1 whole in. Because when you put it in whole, it just releases the flavors kind of a bit slower than it was if you put it in unscored. So I've crushed 1 and put 1 whole in. So that goes in. The next thing that has to go in the rice and peas is some thyme. And I was cussing the chefs because when I came they didn't have any real thyme. And you really has to put this in. It just cannot work without it. So in gonna goes the thyme. In that goes. And I was cussing them again for the scallion. They didn't have it, so they've gone out and actually got me some scallion. Spring onions, for those who don't know. This is, again, you have to put these things in rice and peas. Otherwise, the flavor of the water is not going to be as flavorsome, because it has to taste like a soup. When you finish flavor the liquid for the soup, when you taste that, you should be able to want to drink that just on its own. That's why it's really good to flavor it. And in some ways, we're cooking flavored rice, in some ways. So I'm going to put the scallion in now. Again, I've chopped the scallion here, but again, in Caribbean, they don't really chop the scallion. They just put it in whole, and then you can fish it out afterwards. Nice, lovely smell. Yeah, about two strands of scallion you could put in whole, as I says, or chopped up. Because at the end, you would use a fork and fish out all the stuff that's boiled out. Like you've put the thyme in and that's got bits of sticks in there. At the end, you would just use a fork and take the oil, like I just all boiled that within it. And the next thing now that's gonna go in, and Lord of mercy, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't get it, then you really will be missing something from your rice and peas. Oh, me look.
Trash and ready.
Trash and ready. Scotch bonnets. Yeah. Now, I know some of you guys know the difference of the Scotch bonnet and peppers, different and thing. See the Scotch bonnet there? See the ordinary pepper there? Yeah? Yeah. You're joking, aren't you? No! Not unless you got an ambulance for me outside somewhere. You can't do that with this. You just cannot do that with it. This on the Scoville ratings, which is how they measure capsicum and peppers, this is one of the hottest peppers in the world, the Scotch Bonnet, named after the Scottish hats, because 90% of Jamaicans have Scottish names. So in some ways, to have the Scotch Bonnet named after the hat is somewhere etched in Jamaican history. With nearly all of us has got Scottish names. So I'm going to pop this in whole. You never chop this or never, you're going to make sure that it doesn't have any holes or any kind of indentations or whatever. Because if it does have, then you're going to probably dash for the rice and peas. Because it's going to be so hot that you just cannot really eat it. But when you put it in whole like this, it will release the flavor slowly, that nutty type of Scotch bonnet flavor, and it won't have any heat. He promises. So I'm just gonna just drop the Scotch bonnet in whole in the rice and peas. Boom, in it goes. I've got some bay leaf here. I'm gonna drop a bay leaf in as well. As I said, I wanna create a soup that when I put my rice in, it's gonna be like really amazing.
So Levi, in terms of, because I usually just put it, say about 4, I don't really understand the babies. I see my husband put it in 1 and 2. I usually put about 4 in.
Yes.
What's the difference?
Yeah, bay leaf is got a kind of a sort of flavor to it that's not nice. That if you was to suck on a bay leaf, the flavor's coming back is not like. So that's why when you put too much in, it kind of can ruin the flavor a little bit. Yeah, slightly bitterish taste. So I like to just put 1 in just to create a slightly edge. You know, when you have something that's too sweet and you just want a little bit of bitter, you squeeze a little bit of lime in it and it creates a little bit of tart thing. That's what a bay leaf does to the rice and peas. Because some islands do put a little bit of sugar in there. Believe it or not, they do that. Put it in there. So that's it. So you got your Scotch bonnet in there. And again, you could even drop a few onions in. In that goes salt and pepper. Just to make it nice up. Yeah, it's coming really nice. And as I says, the coconut milk is just gonna give it a nice, lovely, soupy type of flavor. Can I have a spoon? A small spoon, if I may, thanks.
Levi, you mentioned about Ramadan, and we know idol food is Ramadan. So is this how we do it, or we add other things in there?
Well, that's a good point you make there. Ital. Let's talk about ital, because ital is the Rastaman's food. Ital is a step upwards from vegan, even though that we know that vegan is really remote. But ital is even more remote, because if you are the true italist, you cannot eat something that you don't know where the food is traced from. So it's like Rastaman was talking about a carbon footprint many years before we are now talking about it. Because in Bob Marley days, when he used to eat ital, he always had to know where he can trace the food. So you have to know that the onions are from down Mr. John down the road, and the potatoes from Miss Nancy around the corner, and then when you eat the food, it becomes something that is really personal to you and the community. And that's what ital is about. No meat, nothing to that as a blood or as an art pulse in it. Is itality in. Of course, I was an italist for many years, but as a chef, it's a bit difficult to maintain italist eating that, because it is a really strict diet. Okay, so we've got everything in the rice and peas cooking away there to create that flavor, and then I'm going to give it a taste in a while once I think everything is boiled out. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is just to add the rice on the inside. And I know some of the Caribbean ladies is waiting to see if Levi I go wash the rice. Which is another thing you have to do, because if you don't wash the rice, it's going to come out all soggy. And we know the reason for that, because the rice has so much starch in it that you really have to get rid of a lot of the starch, so that the rice come back in a term that Jamaican call, what do we call rice and peas in the Jamaican here? Shelly. Who said that? Lord of mercy. Give a round of applause there. It has to be Shelly. Yes. Okay. I'm just add a little bit of oil in there, just to give it a little vibes.
We was having a discussion about the oil. I cook with oil in
Yes.
rice, and lots of people don't. Can you tell us why you put the oil in?
Well, it is about, because I like my rice to be looking beautiful when it's cooked. And that's what about chefs is. Chef doesn't cook for just taste. Chef cooks for visual as well. So I think when you dab a little bit of oil within the rice, it makes the rice comes out shiny. So that when you look at it, it just looks nice and shiny. It doesn't get any flavors or anything to it, but it just makes it look shelly, like Virgin said there, and look nice and oily. And a bit of that, if it was real coconut I was using, I wouldn't need to put a little bit of oil in, because that on top, that burrata on top, as I mentioned, that would have created that vibe for us. So that's cooking away nicely. So now for the fish parcel, I'm going to add the rice in a minute. Now, fish parcel. We go to Elcha Beach in Jamaica. We see people cooking these things all the time. Street food, we love fish. It's one of the most healthiest food that we can eat, even though we just talk about vegan and Italians, they wouldn't go anywhere near fish. But for me, I grew up eating a lot of fish, particularly snapper. This recipe traditionally is used with snapper fish, but snapper fish is not one that you can find too often if you don't go to Brixton Market or one of them market that has that. So using salmon or any one of these type of other fishes, you know, you can be able to use that as well.
So there's an option in terms of salmon?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm just gonna get a plate here. So all I'm gonna do is to create some flavors so I can put it in a foil and put the fish in the foil with my flavors and cook that off in the oven. So boom, so I've got some...
Somebody's got a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Levi, I come from Africa and I have not seen you using any bechamels when you're cooking the rice. Now, in Africa we do the same thing and my friends always come around honestly cooking and they ask me, can I have the recipe for that? And I'll say yes, that's different than ingredients. They say, but that's not the recipe.
Yes.
How am I going to cook this? So, can you just tell us how we...
I got the recipe right here for you, what I'm doing. Well, what I did, because I think when you're cooking and you're doing recipes that you know for a long time, the recipe becomes you. You know, and for me, I've been doing this recipe for so long that when I'm doing demos, I don't really have to, you know, sort of cook it through, because I don't do much recipes that I don't have in a book. Because I've written so many books and it's got thousands of recipes. Whenever time somebody says, oh, what you're cooking, I can always direct them to a book or online where they can actually go and get it. So for the rice and peas, I think that's in my reggae cookbook. And for this one, it's in my Grill It. For the rice and peas, it's in my Grill It with Levi. Right, okay, so I'm going to be doing now the seasoning. And this is like a real story, ladies and gentlemen, because the story of reggae sauce comes from this, what I'm going to do now. Because this is what my grandma used to do for us when I was a child in Jamaica. And everything that I cook, including the sauce, comes from this very sauce that I'm going to make for you right now. Because this was the stuff that she did. We were so poor that we couldn't afford meats or anything like that. So we had a farm and we had all the sort of yams and the potatoes and the bananas and everything that you could grow. But the only thing that we were short of was just like the protein of the meat. And my granny could make this flavor so fantastic that whenever time she would cook this and put this on the provisions that we would grow, we would feel like as kids that we were having like a 3-course meal with the meat and the lamb and everything that we're doing it. So to me, this is perhaps one of the best things that I can do to put to food is when I create a flavor like what I'm going to do right now. So I've got some onions, I've got some red peppers. If I had some green peppers, some green as well. I've got some chopped here already. And I'm going to put some green peppers in just to create nice flavor.
I'm noticing you're not using are you using the orange pepper, yeah? You've got the orange one there.
Yes, yeah. You can use different colors. I think the orange would give it a nice Rastafarian color of green, gold, and red. So I'm just chopping these and I'm going to fry off these to create a kind of a nice gravy. Not to fry them, just to kind of make the flavors come through. Cool. A little bit of oil on this. Is that one you're on? Which one's on?
This one you want.
Okay.
That one. Sorry.
A little bit of oil in there. Now I know you guys may be wondering things like, you know, what happened to the sauce when I left Dragons Den and all that kind of stuff there like that.
Yeah,
But
what happened to the there? I thought,
yeah, no, it's still there. But I mean, it's the story of how it managed to. That's the most wonderful thing in my life that's ever happened to me. Scenes coming from nowhere and busting off big. And in Black History Month, if there's anything that I can put out there to say to people how I managed to do that. because that was a particular movement of mine, to be able to do that, to come from left field, from absolutely nowhere, and be able to succeed at such a high pace of business. That was a success straight away.
Yeah.
It didn't take years to do that. I had time to get used to being in a room with someone like a Peter Jones and Richard Farley and all these fantastic names. And I was somebody that just coming straight off the front line from Brixton. That's a difficult one to take in. How can you manage to do that?
In your community, Levi, you were well known though in the community. But I think the step where you took the leap.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, when I saw you on Dragon's Den, I was just, my husband and I were screaming to the six, said, no, Levi's going to do it, he's going to do it. When you came up and you started to sing, I said, he's not going to do it soft, he's not going to, what's he going to do? So do you want to take us through that in terms of how it felt?
It's lovely to hear you say that, you know, but I was a typical loser in my community of Brixton. I really was. I really was. I was like that. I remember getting the keys of Brixton from the local mayor. A few years after Dragon's Den, invited me down to Electric Avenue, and they had, you know, hundreds of people was out, and they had this big key that they were giving me for, you know, a hero of the community. And I had to turn to the mayor, and, you know, and it was just an impromptu thing that came out of my mouth. I said, Your Excellency, are you aware that you're giving me this key of Brixton? Are you aware that I've actually burgled every house in Brixton? And that was coming from a place where I was trying to say that you can change, because that is literally true. You know, I was really a terrible one in Brixton, but my point was that you can come from a place like that and to become now where they're offering you the keys to your community. And it's about that change that I was talking about, that I had to go through, and to admit that to myself that I wasn't ready and I wasn't good enough. And if you can admit that to yourself, that's the only time that when you subject to that change, it lasts. It's not a short term. Because I admitted that I was doing everything wrong, and I had gone to prison, and, you know, perhaps I deserved it and everything like that, because that's the way I was. Now, if I wanted to change and to be the new me, then I'm going to have to admit to myself that I got it wrong a lot. And it was that admittance that made me manage to be able to change my life around. Can I have it up higher?
There was an interesting interview in terms of how you redefined yourself from Keith to Levi.
Yes, yeah.
I thought that was so compelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a bit about it, because that touched me.
Yeah, again, as I said before, when I was at the depth of Her Majesty's pleasure, and I thought that I couldn't get any lower. You know, I got a sentence and I was there. I knew I had 7 kids at the time that I'd left behind. And I thought to myself that I've got to change. And to change, you have to change the whole you. I couldn't not just change the songs that I was singing, or not just change the friends that I was with. I had to change my concept, the books that I was reading, you know, the stuff that I was taking in, and make a full, complete change. That when I came out, even my mom couldn't recognize me, you know, at the way I was as a person. Because I went in as Keith. Is that damn Scottish name again that I talked about earlier, which is my real name, is the person that I couldn't identify with. But I think I came out as Levi Roots, and it's the Levi that went on to Dragon's Den. It's not the Keith that got me into a lot of trouble before that I couldn't focus and I didn't know who I was, and that it was the time, God forbid, you know, I'm not saying that anybody should, you know, take that experience at all. But it was, for me, it was having that time away to find who I am and to admit to myself that I wasn't good enough. Yes.
I know that, you know, those kind of names, all of them have got street names, but they lived up to who they are, and they craft their skills around their street.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you want to tell us a bit?
Well, yes, absolutely, because there's values in being who you are. There's a great value in being, I'm trying to say, even though I've said that Peter Jones or Richard Farley didn't change me overnight. I was always me. Just like many young kids on the street now, many of young black kids in inner cities and in housing estate who are similar to me, who's got the vibe and the feel to be successful. But you don't get a Peter Jones coming round or someone like that to tap them on their shoulder, or a mentor, somebody of that ilk to come around and say that I can make a few phone calls for you and I can do something. You never see them. They never came around where I was. I had to go out and find a Peter Jones because it was me coming outside of my local area. After the sauce just wasn't a success amongst my own people, because they wouldn't buy it from me because they thought that why should I buy a sauce from Levi when I can make my own? Yeah. So I had to go out in the shires. You know, me and my kids, we threw a dart at the board, at the map, and we said anywhere it lands, that's where I'd go. And it landed in the Shire, a place called Carmarthenshire. And for 2 years, I only went to places that had Shire at the end of it, because I know there was nobody looking like me in them places there. So I would go with my guitar and be singing the song to this new audience. You know, nobody was black, no Rastas, nobody. But here I was with a Caribbean sauce singing about my grandma and trying to say that buy this sauce and it will do something different. And they believe me, they brought the sauce in their hundreds. And while I was there in one of these events, that I was spotted by a producer from Dragon's Den, who came over and asked me to come on the show. And which, when she asked me, I'm still like, come out of my face, lady. And I'd never seen the show. And you can imagine that when they ask a Rastaman and tell him, say, to go on a show called Dragon's Den. Lord of mercy. The first thing I thought about them is that there's a great reggae artist called Capleton who had a tune called Slew Them. That's the first thing, because you're thinking that if there's any dragons out there, you want to slay those dragons because it's them a hold down black people and all these things. That's the philosophy that you've got in your head. So I didn't even need to see the show. And I spent 3 weeks when the lady told me about the show and invited me on, trying not to look at Dragon's Den. Because my kids were saying, you know, Dad, you can't take that guitar on the show and you need to look at Dragon's Den and see that nobody's ever sang on the show. And I was like, no, I don't want to be beaten before I get there. You know, if I'd watched these clips of Dragon's Den and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have taken the guitar. I wouldn't have been me, the person who I trained while I was at Her Majesty's Pleasure, to come out to be the real me and not to shy away from that. People were saying, don't take the guitar. That, you know, I should just go and do it like everybody else had done. But I thought, hang on, I'm better when I'm me. I feel better in my own skin when I've got this guitar and I've got my music and I've got my grandma's vibes and I've got her sauce and I've got everything behind me. And that's what I wanted to go, and I took the chance to go with the guitar, and the rest is history. The rest is history. Lord of mercy. Sorry, say that again?
You said that the oil that you put in the rice, is it a particular oil?
No, it's just vegetable oil you do. But I did explain that if you're using the real coconut, if you can break it and get the skin out, then you won't need to put the oil, because the coconut will create that film of oil on top. Right, okay, I've got the sauce here. I don't know if anybody can see it or draw a bit closer just to see how it is. It's not fried or anything. It's just kind of slightly wet. If you can see it there, and it's got a really lovely taste, lovely smell to it. Right, okay. So that's there. So while that's chilling now, all I'm gonna do is just have the gentleman wash off this rice about 6 or 7 times for me, please. No, just twice will do. Just twice will do.
While he's doing that, I want to tap into you a bit more.
Yes.
Of this $1 million film, and I don't want to be a groupie. Can I be a walk-on?
Boy, I tell you what, I cannot even believe it myself, to tell you the truth. It's unbelievable. You know, again, it's one of these things that I never dreamed of anywhere near thinking that these kind of things would happen. As I said, I always thought I was a loser. I was always a follower. I was never a leader in any way. People will tell you that No Coxsone Sound is the sound system that I was with for many years. We know that I was always in the background. In the front row was people like Blacker Dread and Festus and Lloydie Coxon, and all these people was out in front. But even though I was the singer of the sound, I was the one that was on the mic. I didn't like my pictures taken. I didn't like to be out front. So it wasn't until when I came out of prison and I came out this new me, and I felt that I want to be Levi Roots. It felt like it right that I was just now the new me, and I wasn't this person that was getting into trouble, and I didn't want to get into trouble again. It was the new me that I wanted to face, and I created that Levi Roots. And by the way, Levi is from the month that I was born. It's my Rastafari name. As I says, when I learned that we weren't Scottish after all, in school, I thought I had to change it, and it was listening to Bob Marley's music that that taught me that as a Rasta man, you are a Rasta man, and if you're born in the month of June, then really you're a Levite. Then as Leviticus in the Bible, things like that. So I chose the name of my tribe, which is a Levi tribe. And roots is just saying the strongest part of the tree is the root. And I wanted to put that together to create this new phenomenon that was me. So it's a throwback to somebody in my family back a long time ago, but it's not an invention. It's a recreation of something that you felt that you was wrong. It's a bit like now kids are changing, from one person who they think they are into someone else. And that's how I felt. And I only felt it when I got punished, which is kind of a strange thing, which is I always go. And I felt like this was wrong. I needed to make a change, and now I'm the new me. The new me.
So Levi, if you took them from the crowd then, just tear everybody apart and see the 17-year-old Levi, what would you tell him now?
It's about that doubt, I suppose. Because that is the biggest thing that I remember, just having the doubt about myself. I was the youngest. I came over, I couldn't read or write. I came over nearly at the age of 12. I couldn't spell my first name, and as you know now, that I only had 5 letters, Keith. I couldn't even spell that. I was 12 and I couldn't count to 20. So that struggle came from a far end. So to having to learn from the age of 12, when you come to a new country where everybody else has gone through nursery and kindergarten and primary school and come right up. And all of a sudden I was hooked from Jamaica. I didn't ask to come here. My parents didn't ask me whether I wanted to leave my beloved grandma, who I thought was mom and dad and everything to me. And then all of a sudden I was brought here into school, and so that struggle was real. So for that 17-year-old boy, I would tell him that, boy, things are gonna get better. But you have to be ready for change. And you have to be susceptible for change, which is something else in Black History Month that I think that needs to be taught a little bit, because it's a bit like how we talk about the food, how difficult it is to change Caribbean food from one to the other, which I'm not one of that. I think it's important for us to make other people cook our dishes in their own way. Because as a chef, I know I feel it for a lot of young Caribbean chefs who cannot experiment like their other counterparts, who can use any recipes that they want to and change it and do anything they want. But the Caribbean chef out there, he can make a different version of rice and peas and these things, because we're so old up in this thing. I think it's about time now that we let some of this thing fly. We know what it stands for, yes, but we're not connected with it so much. There are more important things. All right, let me put this rice in now. All right, so the rice is there. It is, ladies and gentlemen, washed 7 times, yeah? So all the starches come out of it. So I'm just gonna pop that in. All of it in. And the next trick, I know people have different ways of cooking rice. I've traveled a lot and I've seen how some people put the rice in, cook the water, throw off the water. Hands up anybody who do that. Put the rice in, throw off the water, and things. Say, lady, she didn't want to put up her hand in her. Yeah. Slow. Well, let me just turn it on. This way of cooking here is not to throw off the water, because the water will all absorb into the rice. But you've got to get the water level right. Which is the magic part of rice and peas. If you don't get that water level with the rice right, then the rice and peas is not going to come out shelly, because the water is going to be too much. So it's important that when you stir the rice, when you see it settle, you got to be able to see the peas even just below the water when the water settled, bubbling underneath. So in some ways it's about ½ an inch or so below, because once you put the cover on, you can't open it. Because if you open it, you're going to let all the heat out and get all the steam out. Then it's going to take a long time to build back up the steam to cook the rice properly. So the water's got to be right. Then when you put the lid on, turn the heat full up so it starts boiling at boiling point. And once it starts boiling, turn it right down to the very lowest point, and then it starts cooking. Yeah. Like we haven't got a proper lid for this, but I would suggest now if we've got a foil, a large piece of foil, if they haven't got a lid for it, just put a large bit of foil over, and then you put whatever you're putting on top of it, and it will cook nicely. And I've stirred this, and I can just about see the peas when the water is settled. So I think it's just about enough water in there. Thank you so much. So I'm going to pop this on. Yeah, lovely. And if we pop this back on. Right. Now for the fish while that's going on. We're going good. Right, cool. Brilliant. So there we've got one piece of salmon. If I take the salmon off first. This down. Because I think I want to put the seasoning on first so you can see it. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just gonna do, maybe this is gonna do 2, and then the guys are gonna do the rest round back. Because I've got about 2. So if you can see that, I'm gonna separate that into 2 different parts to make 2 fish parcels. So that's the sauce or the relish or whatever you wanna call it that I'm gonna just pop on the greaseproof paper. And one, it smells really nice. It's really nice. And pop that down there. Right, okay. Once you've got it like this now, it's your choice. You can put anything else that you want on top of it. If you've got some chutney in the fridge and you want to be experimental, that you want to put on top of it, it's allowed. Again, this is my style, because Caribbean people wouldn't even say that. They want you to stick to the real thing. But once you get the recipe, it is yours. It's not mine anymore. It's in the book, it's mine, yes, but once you've decided to take it, it is yours. So anything else allowed. So if you wanted to pop a little bit of demerara sugar on top, as I said, like some islands do, that's fine by me. No problem at all. If you wanted to jack up the flavors a little bit more with that black pepper that I had, and pop a little bit in there, then that's all fine as well too. So that's in there. Now for your Scotch bonnet, as I says, now you're going to be careful because you don't want to be putting Scotch bonnet in fish. Fish, I wouldn't recommend that you make fish too spicy. Fish is a subtle type of flavor. So I basically would just put a couple of slithers of Scotch bonnet in there. Lord of mercy. I love eat, you know. I love eat. But I'm not going to put a lot in there. It's just a few. I keep saying a few and I keep putting it. Okay, so I don't think that's going to be like really hot. And anything else that you have that you wanna put in there, if I wanted to have that milk, that coconut.
What's the seasoning that we've done? Is the seed still in the Scotch bonnet?
No, seedless Scotch bonnet. Yes, yeah. You didn't put the seeds in the Scotch bonnet. That's a little bit more coconut oil, coconut milk on it. And the lime, yeah, I've got the lime here. And just the juice over the lime over the thing. Nice. Now finally a little bit more salt with a bit of salt. Thank you very much. A little bit of salt on there, bang. Now I've got my fish now. I'm just gonna place the fish on top. You haven't got to put anything on the fish because that flavor is gonna boil through, especially if you put it on a barbecue. Because this recipe really is for a barbecue. You should just put it on the barbecue and close it and it will be fine. But in an oven, then it's just as fine. The key thing now is just to wrap it so you don't make it too tight, because you want it to be nice and cooked on the inside. So I'm gonna be doing that. Then I'm gonna fold it. Yeah, greaseproof plate on the inside and then the foil on the outside.
barbecue, can you steam it and you roast it or?
Yes, you put straight roast fish is when you put it on the barbecue. In a foil on a barbecue in the Caribbean, that's what they call roast fish. Or the other way you can do it is if you create a fire on the floor and you have the ashes, create ashes, then you can just bury this underneath the ashes. That's another way of doing roast fish in Jamaica. They do it without even scaling the fish, because the fish with the scale becomes the protectiveness. They just put the fish underneath the earth, under the ground, and then the ashes would just cook it. So there's one of my fish parcels. It is. I'm going to do another one. And then I'm going to put it there. Right, so you got it there. On it goes with your seasoning. Sorry? Yes?
I just wanted to ask about the rice. If it was happening along the way, will I use basmati for that?
Yeah, good question there about the different types of rice. At home, for me personally, I don't go the traditional way. I use brown rice because brown rice is much more healthier. Basmati rice is traditional, you know, a lot of people use that. But brown rice, going back to my grandma days, is what they used to use because we never had all this fancy rice back then. It was really healthy brown rice. A little bit more harder to cook, but comes back shelly just the same as if you was to use the basmati rice. But I would suggest that you use brown rice because it really is more healthier than basmati. Even though basmati do a brown rice. A brown rice, yeah. Sorry? You have to take a rain check on that. You like your basmati rice. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all wrong with that. Okay, cool. So another fish. Maybe I'll put 2 fish on this one here now. Show you that it can be done. 2 fish. And
Levi, while you're doing that, in terms of Black History Month,
yes.
I know that you've done a lot of talk on the Windrush as well, and very controversial in terms of speaking out about the disproportionate treatment
Yes.
of our country people and went through. What's your thoughts on that still yet? Do you think it's still being dealt with properly, or do you think there's more can be done?
You know, I think with the whole thing about, I mean, I was involved with a thing about black disparities last year. I don't know if you saw that. And they actually used the piece that I wrote against what I really believed, because it came out as if like I was supporting the report that there wasn't any racism in this country, basically, which as a Rastaman, and all my songs that I've ever sung is about, you know, trying to get equality and all that kind of stuff. And what I was trying to say is what I was trying to hit on before is that says there is problem, and some of them is our own fault, because as I said, we won't change our attitude towards how we chant down the system, because we're always chanting down the system. But I'm always saying that let's find a different approach. You know, let's find a more subtle approach. Because it's been 400 years since we've been doing this, since we've been going against slavery, and nothing much has changed at all in 400 years. So we perhaps need to look at ourselves. We need to look at the stuff that people like Malcolm X was saying, what Marcus Garvey was saying, and investigate this thing and see whether or not they still pertaining to our lives today. Because some of them don't. You know, because here I am with Marcus Garvey, and Marcus Garvey, his most famous saying is that a people without history of their past is like a tree without root. You know, and that doesn't pertain to us nowadays, you know, because we know our past. You know, as black people, I don't think there's any other races in the world that knows about their history more than ourselves, because we were always been digging about our history and finding about who we are and all that kind of stuff. So in some ways, we need to leave that behind and say that we need to find ourselves. You know, even though we may not have no root, but it doesn't mean that we can't grow, because every organism, no matter where you put it down, it starts to take root. You know, and our organism has been there for 400 years, as I say, since slavery. And we haven't taken root, like come out of this yet and find ourselves as yet. So maybe we need to change our own rhetoric in how we go. And I've always said that sometimes we come in like a B-52 bomber in our responses, which is loud and big and, you know, always creating some kind of noise. We need to be stealth. stealth bomber is far more dangerous because when it comes, it doesn't make a lot of sound, but it's quite effective. And I think that's how we need to do it. A bit like how, you know, Black History Month is. It's a subtle way of putting ourselves in front at the moment for this month, because every advertisement you see on TV, everything and that is black. So in some ways, it's a good thing. Even though we want it for right here around, shouldn't be just about, you know, 1 month, but it is a subtler way apart from the chanting that we've been doing for many years.
So what you're saying, Darwinism just paved the way for
Yeah, it paved the way, yeah, but I think we need to now look at different things like, you know, Malcolm X is saying by any means necessary. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that now, you know. I'd rather say by any negotiations necessary, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to go say let's fight a war and stuff like that to get freedom. I would rather say we have to negotiate that instead of saying we're going to kill more people for doing that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my vibes. It's controversial, but that's how I feel. Fish parcel again, ready. So okay, so I'm going to just pop these in now, and I've forgotten the rice and peas. I hope it now burn up. Can you put these in? Half an hour, they should be fine. If this wasn't a barbecue, it probably would be quicker. And the barbecue would cook that much quicker because the steam would go right onto the foil. Can we turn this down? Can we turn it down? You turn it down a bit, cool, yeah. Yes, so that's it then, gentlemen. So we're going to I'm just going to give that another couple of minutes and take some more questions, and then I'm going to take a look at the rice and peas. I'm going to take a peek and see what I go on feed, see if it's going away nicely and thing. But the peas should be bubbled on top and the rice at the bottom. So once you open it, you'd have to take a nice fork now and give it a nice twirl just to mix things together and see how it is. But I'm hoping that it will be okay. Cool. Any more questions?
Any questions? So tell us about your trip.
About our?
Your trip to Jamaica.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah, my trip to Jamaica. You know, absolutely. As I was saying to you before, I needed a break. You know, I really did. I lost my beloved mother last year, and she is my rock and everything. As I said, when I came to this country, if it wasn't for her, you know, take me underneath her wings and everything, I wouldn't survive. You know, and she's been my closest confidant over the years. When I woke up the morning going to Dragon's Den, and I rang up the taxi fare the night before, the taxi rank, and I asked them how much it was to take me from Brixton to London Bridge where they were filming the Dragon's Den. And he was saying something like £20 or something like that. And I looked through all my pennies with the kids that we had left, because we spent all the money on getting the bottles and the labels and everything ready to go on Dragon's Den that week. And the morning now, the night before now, I'm stuck. I can't find the taxi fare to go. So I went round to see my mom, as you do then when you're in trouble, you go see mommy. So I got in the house, and straight away she looked at me. She knew something was up. She knew that me come ask for something, like, you know what I'm saying? So she said, sit down. And I'm saying, oh, Mom, I'm going to. She said, sit down. I said, Mom, she said, pick up the Bible. She didn't wait for me to get to it. Just pick up the Bible. So I pick up the Bible. And I said, I wanted to say that, Mom, look, I've come asking you for help. I'm going to go on the most important journey. The next day, you tell me if you pick up the Bible. She says, pick up the Bible. So I did what she said. I pick up the Bible. She says, open it at Psalm 23. Lord of mercy. Does anybody here know what Psalm 23 says? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. She says, read the Psalms. So I'm still like really angry, because I'm thinking about this 20 quid that I wanted to lend me to take the taxi. She says, read it. So I read, I'm saying, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. She says, stop there at I shall not want. She says, if you believe in yourself and you go on this Dragon's Den program, because she knew that everybody was saying to me, don't go on the show. She said, if you really believe in yourself and you go on this show as you will become back a dragon slayer. It's she I get that word from. Yeah. You will come back as a dragon slayer. And while I was sitting there talking to this beautiful woman, and she was telling me this philosophy and thing, I left without even remembering to ask her for the 20 quid. I left the house without even asking her. So I got home without even the money. So the next morning, I still rang the taxi rank to come, because some of you might know this old thing about skanking the taxi. So I called the taxi just because I couldn't take the bus because I had my guitar. I had the boxes with the sauces and everything to take on the show. So I knew I had to take a car. So I still rang the taxi fare, and when the taxi man come, I still not tell him nothing about didn't have the fare. I got in the car, put the guitar in the car, put the sauces in the car, and he drove all the way to London Bridge. And it's when I got outside of the BBC studio that I revealed to this lovely man, you know, he was such a nice man, that I never had the fear to give him, but I said to him that I'm going in here and my life is going to change. And I'm sure, I doubt if he really did believe me when I was telling him that, because I'm telling him that I'm going to win and I'm going to, you know, this is my moment here. And then he says, all right, now give me what you got. So I got the coins that I'd taken out, what we collected the kids the night before. And it was about like 7-8 quid, you know, I gave that to him in change, and he took it. And I went inside. And as soon as the program had finished and I got the investment, I'm in the taxi now, going home, because they're sending me home in a taxi. The first person I called was this beloved woman, my mom.
Oh,
you know, I just called her up and I said, Mom, you know, I am the Dragon Slayer! And I've used that term ever since then as the Dragon Slayer, because, you know, she said that. But it's that belief that she had in me that she says, be who you are. Don't pretend. If you feel that you want to go with the song and you feel that's you in your soul, then you should go with how you feel. And that's exactly what so I missed her so much. So I had to go to Jamaica, you know, after 1 year after she passed away, just to get that vibes and to lay down on the beach and more dream about her and think about her and say thank you, Mom, you know, and everything like that. And it was a beautiful experience while I was there. It really was amazing. It really was
Levi,
amazing.
you know that is faith without will, isn't it? Or will without faith, isn't it?
That's true, that's true, that's true. That's what you said, you know, you gotta have faith. You gotta have faith indeed. Lord of mercy. Shall I take a look at the rice and peas?
Go to look at the rice and peas.
All right, let's have a look. Lord of mercy, let me get a cloth if I may. Can I have a bit of cloth to lift up that? Yeah, lift up that rice. That. And if I can have can I have a fork, please?
Fork,
yeah. So, because when you lift it up, if it's not ready, you've got to be prepared to raise it up very quickly and put on the lid very quickly back again. So let's have a look. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment of truth. You know? Let's see what's going on. It's not dried yet, but I peeked inside and it's looking absolutely amazing. It looks shelly, it looks shelly. But the only thing that I was saying about before, that what I started out with, is one of those warning that the redness to turn it into the red rice, you will lose it when you use the tin peas. So I'm warning you again, like that. It won't have that redness, but it'll be great in the meantime. Yeah, it's going really good. I think another 5 minutes and it should be okay. Cool, yeah. Could we chop those onions and the peppers and stuff in the onions?
Now,
yeah, thank you.
So Levi, your award, your fellow award from the University Agricultural
Yeah.
University. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, you know, I've been just so lucky over the years, you know, absolutely so lucky. And the stuff that people have asked me to do, I still find them unbelievable. I still don't think that I deserve any of this kind of stuff like that, because I still think I'm that Rasta man on the street in Brixton, same way that's done nothing really, you know, to deserve that. But I've been working with the Royal Agricultural University for a long time now. It was just a few years after I came out of Dragon's Den, so what, about 12 years now I've been working with them. I was the first black person and the first Rasta man to sit on the board of there, and it's just brilliant again being asked by them to do that on the board of advisors. And now they were accused of institutional racism, of which they've again now asked me to chair the inquiry into that. And as you know, that university is one of the biggest and most well known in the country. And not only that, but a couple of years before that, they gave me an honorary fellowship, you know, which is fantastic commitment from them you know, and now to ask me to sit and chair this most important, you know, accusation towards them. So, you know, again, it's something that I just feel so rewarded for, you know, and I can't thank them enough for how they stuck by me over the years. And I'm really looking forward to this result of this inquiry coming out, whatever it's going to be, because it's been a year and a half now we've been literally been into it. So I'm looking forward to the end of it and then getting that result out to them. You know, hopefully it doesn't create anything too bad for the university and it comes out positive in the end.
So in terms of reflecting diversity across the organised, well, across the university, we know there's problems in terms of achievement and attainment, especially for international.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's one of the key things will be in the record at the end of it, because you know this is not just finding out whether or not there's racism in the institution. It's putting together a whole field of recommendations to sort of safeguard the institution against anything like that happening. So even if it comes out as negative, but they will have these rules that the commissioner will come by to safeguard it for in the future. So it really is important, as we know a lot of universities are coming out now with so much, you know, sort of not good news when it comes to racism, historic racism there. And it's also that time about changing the curriculum as well. You know, especially for the RAU, which is about farming, and they don't teach anything about black farmers and about anything like that. And during my investigation, you know, black people has contributed a whole heap to the farming industry. But nothing like that is ever taught, you know, just like other stuff in schools. So that's something, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, this inquiry will change. Is change the curriculum so that, you know, the history is even up a bit more. Yeah.
So that's in terms of our young children.
Yeah.
I know there's a massive campaign about, it's been going on for years, in terms of our young children, in terms of the curriculum. What do we have with that? I know that you're doing some vital work in terms of, you know.
Yeah, no, as I say, it's really sad that that kids, especially black kids now, have to be deep in themselves so much in history. Just coming back again to what I was saying about Marcus Garvey, because it's not the time for them to be doing that. I have an 8-year-old son and I don't want him to be always be thinking about history, about the past and about slavery. I really don't want that from him. I'll teach him those things that I think he needs to know as a father and as moms, and I think we should all do that. And about the food and about where he's from and the Marcus Garveys and the history of who we are and the people and stuff. I can teach him a lot about that. But I don't want him to go to school to be bogged down in finding about him like, oh, I was. Because I think maybe searching that history and singing so much songs about roots and culture. I never sang about love or anything like that. And a lot of the music that I listened to, never sang about love of the opposite sex and just normal day-to-day thing. It was always chanting the system and that sort of stuff. And I said, I don't want Christopher to be like that. I want him to be thinking about forward thinking. I want him to be where, you know, where the other white kids' minds are now, because their minds are not bogged down in history. Their minds are bogged down in science and technology and you know, all the things that are looking forward. So again, it's that double-edged sword about how do we move our people forward and still take into concept what Marcus Garvey says, that you will have to know where you're coming from if you're going to know where you're going. But I don't want you to concentrate on the historical thing, because I think Black History Month shouldn't be about black people. Black History Month should be about the chance for white people to learn about us. You get me? Yes, that's it. Because when you know each other, there's a greater chance of having comradeship, that type of thing. When you don't know, I mean, I know all my white friends because I know the history. If you ask me anything about who there is to Churchill, I can probably know more the history than them. Because I take that all in and I know every race's history a lot, including Indian, Chinese and everything that you pick up. But our own is not taught in school, and it's only what you know yourself that you learn, and not all of us are like that. So again, as I said, I wouldn't want Christopher to be bogged down in that. I want him to be thinking about, you know, the head stuff, and then I can teach him about the other stuff.
Yes, we're going to do a rock. Yeah. Say.
Just enough like this? Like that or a bit more?
That's good. That's great. That's
then
great.
start
Al
putting it on
dente,
the
yes,
bottom now,
crispy,
yeah?
yeah. remember you can put everything in here, you know. You can put the milk in here now and everything and then scoop it onto the paper. Instead of doing it bit by bit and it's just quicker, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Levi, we've done a raffle.
Yes.
For your book, so you're going to sign.
There you go. So.
Okay. Is it just one winner?
There's a few books. There's 4.
Oh, just 4 books. Okay.
So who?
Okay, the first one here is number 34. Woo. Number 34, yeah.
Can you pick another one?
Yeah, there's 5.
There you go. Your lovely assistant. Make it
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Make it good.
Okay, I got a good one. I got a good one.
Okay, here we go.
Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. I've got 35.
Oh, wow. That's your birthday now.
Yeah, the Shelly man, 35. Yes,
There you
yeah.
go.
Hope I don't join the 30s now
There we go.
again.
Let me shake it
Yeah.
up a little bit. There you go.
All right, what we got? What we got this one here?
5, yeah? Okay.
Oh, this is number 4. Number 4. Yeah, cool.
Yes, well done. Righty-ho. 2 more.
2 more. Okay, cool. All right.
Make it good.
All right. I'm feeling this one here. This one here feel nice. That one I feel nice. Whoever's got this one here has got a blessing, man.
There we go.
Number 12.
Number 12.
12. 12.
Is that you? No?
No, number 12.
Is that you?
Maybe the
Number
person.
12. Shall I join another one?
Yeah.
That person is gone. All right. Number
Let's go.
12 not did it. Yeah.
Do another one. There we go.
All right. Wait there. Sit here. All right. Number 20.
Number 20.
Gentleman over there. Yeah. Yeah, the man's cool. Look at him, man. He's just a cool dude, man. He's just cool in back
Thank you very
there.
much.
Cool, nice one. Yes, all right. The rice and peas now again, like the last look. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You know when things work out right? It's absolutely Shelly and wonderful. And when I say Shelly, Shelly means, just in case anybody know what Shelly meant with the rice and peas. It can't be clumped up together. It has to be cooked, but yet still free. So it's a rice grain and not rice lumps. So that's what it means by Shelly. And when you use the coconut milk, the real coconut, the rundown sticks to the rice a little bit, so that's the shelliness. But in this case, that's not so much, as I says. That's really oily, the coconut and stuff here. But it looks amazing. I'm gonna bring it out, and just so you can peek it on the inside.
Sorry, sir.
With a fork, yeah. Right. Oh, there's the cloth. I could have the cloth. Yeah, thank you. All right. Now this is how it looks when it's proper, ladies and gentlemen. Now, come look at that. Come closer, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you can see the stuff that's in when I fish out the things.
Can you tip up slightly? So
Yeah,
I can
sure.
sit?
Sure. There it is. And you can see the rice rocks. So it's all loose. Look at that.
Oh, wow. That's red rice.
Yeah, it would be a little bit more redder if it was the real peas. And there's the Scotch bonnet, ladies and gentlemen, just floating on top. It hasn't busted or anything. So the flavor. So now is the time when you could do this. So you just shell it up with the fork, and then you can pick out all the bits like the bay leaf comes out, because all the flavor is on the inside. And then if you had the thyme or anything big, you can fish it out. Even the garlic that I didn't crush, if you wanted to take that out, it's there, you can take it out. And then the rice is just nice and shelly.
Wow.
So now for the chef to taste it. Let's see what go on.
Levi, let me taste some.
The rice cook.
Just a little bit, mommy, man. That's it.
Yes. No need nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. It's perfect, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to me. I have no problem with this rice and peas.
It's lovely.
And with the fish, how's our first one's doing?
Yeah, that's the one.
Not ready yet?
I think it's ready now.
Levi, like your mother would say, if the food don't look good, then good
It now going to taste good on the plate. Yes, it has to look good. It has to look good, ladies and gentlemen. That's absolutely right. Yes. So if we get some plates, can I have two plates?
2 plates.
Yeah, just to serve out. So 5 minutes for the fish, yeah?
Guys, can we do a quick check on the winning records you get on so we haven't missed any? We 34, Tina Fitzgerald.
Oh, I can use these.
20, Randall. 35, Paulette Phillips. 4, Dominique Baptiste Collins. Are we missing one?
12.
12 over there. Going with the one more to pick, I think. Go one, going twice, right? Then we get the
I'll pick it, Chris.
That's all right. Yeah, fine.
21. 21. So Levi, you're garnishing your plate.
Yeah, of course. Good, yeah. Yeah, it's got to be done.
I've noticed you use a lot of lime, even in your books. You constantly
Yeah, it's a lot of lime. That's a good point there because Caribbean people don't put lime on their food at all. You know, especially Jamaicans. It is something, as I said, I've had to adapt because I don't cook that. I like to cook my style, as I said, and because I'm here in the UK, I'm always aware that, you know, as I said, it's the diaspora and you have to cook things different. And I'm not the one that would like to keep it without the visual. Because in Jamaica, traditionally, visual is not a thing. You get the food on the plate, slap it on, as long as the flavor is right, you start to eat.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a bit different, and I love the visual thing. So I will garnish and put the lime on the plate, which is not, it's not that thing. Just so it looks nice. Use it to wash the fish, of course. And in uptown Jamaica as well, because you see, I'm drawing for the melon here. And if you ever go into Pegasus Hotel and you don't get a piece of melon on your plate, it's because the chef don't like you. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take the fish out in a minute, ladies and gentlemen, and then you will see what it looks like. But just to recap, as I said, just in case, with the rice and peas, again, I have to say this, ladies and gentlemen, if you can, when you're talking about it, see it there. Very difficult to get out the coconut out of it, out of this. The best way to do it is to smash the coconut, put a towel over it once you, well, bore the hole in it because there's 3 holes in the coconut. And my granny used to always give us the choice. So we used to always win a sweet if we can tell which eye is the opener. Because there's only one you can get through. Because nature does it so that when the birds come along, they're confused, they don't know which one. Because if the birds pick the right one, the coconut is dead. So it has 2 dot eyes and 1 real one. And if I was to, which one would you think? As kids would have to guess which one it is.
Oh, this one looks soft.
This one here?
Yeah.
No. 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 It's only one. One is real and 2 is dud.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Probably this one.
This one here? I think it's that one personally, but I'll go for yours. Yours is a dud as well. This one here. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there you go. That one here. That's the old. So you'd have to just inch it out. Get rid of the liquid and then smash it. Put a towel over it and then use a hammer or something to just smash up the shell, and then it's easier to get the husks out the flesh. But more likely it's you'd have to call in an elder more time to get the skin out of the coconut. So that's why we're saying to cook it traditionally it's really difficult. And that's why I'm saying sometimes we have to throw away some of our traditional things to make it work in otherwise. And the grater as well too. You know, so you're gonna have to grate up all your finger because you cannot grater it in it. You can't even use a blender. Because if you blend it, it doesn't come out shelly enough, again that word, for you to squeeze it and get the juice out. The best way is to use a grater. The old traditional way. And when you do it that way, it's just really easy. Just pour a bit of hot water on and then just leave it for a couple of minutes and then you just juice it up. And it's just nice. But it's just really just so hard to get out of it. Let me see if the water nice.
Is it nice?
Lovely. As kids, that's what we used to want, man. It takes me back again to my granny. She would just give it to us and we'd just suck on it and then smash it. So yeah, that's the vibes. All right. Okay. I think that fish should be nearly ready. We'll put a bit of this. Thank you very much, sir. Oh. Yeah, it's open. It's a bit hot. Now you can put it on the plate if you so wish. Serve it on the plate, but traditionally how this would be served, you perhaps would have the rice on the side or the rice in something else, but the fish wouldn't come out of the pouch. You'd actually eat it within the pouch. Amazing. Yes, fantastic.
It smells lovely.
Yes. So let me move this on here.
Can I ask a question, Levi?
Sure.
Would it, if this was being cooked at home in a country home, maybe on the hill in Jamaica or Antigua,
Yes.
somewhere, would that foil be a banana leaf?
It would be. It would be, because that was the original foil. Yes. That would be.
And serving it on the plate,
Yes. So right. Yes. So right.
would have been a green leaf.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Here it is. It would be this.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah. And there you go. There's lovely fish.
Wow.
To
Amazing.
me, that looks fantastic. And then you've got your rice and your peas. Yeah. And I'm gonna put some rice and peas on the fish so it soak up.
And it has it because of the fish as well. It has
Thank
oil.
you.
You didn't need any oil.
You don't need no oil, absolutely no, nothing at all. It's got, you can see
Yeah.
it's got, and then the rice and peas. Now you could, as I said, if you wanted to, you could put it on. You could put even some yassa,
Yeah.
so that someone can take that away and enjoy. Because the flavor now would be wrapped up of the fish, would be in the rice and everything. Oh man, it's amazing.
Wow.
And if you've got some coriander, again, even though that's not very Caribbean, but it's a nice thing. Yes, thank you. I've got some here, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, a little bit of niceness.
So Levi, this is when you said the boat land.
The boat land, the boat land. Lovely.
Thank you so much.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Caribbean fish parcels
Wow.
with rice and peas.
Absolutely amazing.